Coming up on today's show, we're going to look at an interesting report came out that listed the Atlanta Falcons as a good landing spot for DeAndre Hopkins. Plus, we're going to talk about whether or not Atlanta should sign Trey Flowers, the edge rusher. Former Patriots legend, cashed in with the Dolphins, has not been very good since. But before we get to all that, if you are ready for Falcons football, and not preseason football, because preseason football is the biggest piece of blue balls out there. I'm talking week 1, Carolina. The trend continues of first overall picks that are quarterbacks losing in their first game continues. Then type me down in the comment section. Now, let's talk about DeAndre Hopkins, because Bleacher Report listed the Falcons as an instant playoff contender if they sign Hopkins. And I think they're right. I think the Falcons are playoff contenders this year, right? They're not firmly in the playoff mix. They're not in the Bills or Chiefs or Eagles range, but they are in a weak division with a very under-the-radar talented roster, and DeAndre Hopkins could be the thing that kind of pushes them over the edge in the NFC South. Here's what Bleacher Report wrote about this. The Falcons can make a bigger splash before training camp with the addition of Hopkins. With wideout Drake London and Kyle Pitts in the fold, Atlanta would have an unstoppable trio of pass catchers in the red zone. Moreover, they can use their size advantage all over the field. Atlanta may field a solid passing attack with Drake, Pitts, and a sprinkle of Robinson, though Hopkins can put the aerial attack over the top. In a wide-open NFC South division, a team with a high-level passing offense could run away with the division. You need better wide receivers for Desmond Ridder. I know I'm beating a dead horse here. I know this is going to be a run-first offense. But by show of hands, is this team more exciting with or without DeAndre Hopkins on this roster? I think it's with DeAndre Hopkins, right? Drake London, Hopkins, and Matt Collins, those are really good wide receivers, right? Hopkins with anyone is going to be a good wide receiver room. But with a guy like London, who put up really good numbers last year for a team that had a big question mark at quarterback, it felt like, on and off with inconsistent play, he could really push this team over the edge. Now, when you look at Hopkins' stats over the last 4 years, he has not been available the last 2 years to the fullest extent, but he's still DeAndre freaking Hopkins. Like, if you get Hopkins, if you get the notification that the Atlanta Falcons signed DeAndre Hopkins, you are not throwing your phone to the ground in frustration. You are getting a drink and you are starting the party and planning the parade, because Hopkins might not be a parade planner, but he can definitely get you to the postseason. When you look at the career stats of the rest of the wide receiver room, it's a very young and inexperienced room. I've got high expectations and big beliefs for Drake London to be successful this year, with or without Hopkins, but adding Hopkins is definitely going to take a little bit off of London's plate. And if you want to find out if you have a franchise quarterback in Desmond Ridder, give him some good pieces to work with. And London's a good piece, great piece, but if an injury happens there and Kyle Pitts does not pan out, you're not going to learn a whole lot about Desmond Ridder if he's throwing to Jonnu Smith and Matt Collins and Scotty Miller. Like, you won't come away this season knowing if you've got a franchise QB in Desmond Ridder if that's the case. I also want to add, the NFC South is for the taking. It is officially a yard sale. Everything's up for grabs. It's an estate sale. You can have this division. There is no clear favorite now that Tom Brady is out of Tampa Bay. It's a division with Derek Carr, who cried. I mean, he's a wuss. That's putting it lightly. Rolly censored me. That's not what we agreed on earlier. But Derek Carr, confirmed crier as a franchise quarterback, can't have it. Not my franchise QB. Bryce Young might be good, but I don't think he's going to be super duper good in his first season. And then the Bucs, I don't know what they're going to do. Kyle Trask sucks. Baker, he had a good drive last year against the Raiders. And did you see how he played the next week? Kind of went back to Carolina Baker. So I'm not too intimidated by any of these starting quarterbacks right here. I think Atlanta with Hopkins could definitely run away with this division, right? I think they are firmly in the mix right now. A team that went 7-10 last year at the bottom of the division in a three-way tie. You know there's going to be one team that goes from worst to first. That could be Atlanta. So, Terry, I know you're listening. Make it happen. Get the checkbook from Arthur. Write a blank check, and let's get Hopkins to Atlanta for Falcons fans to watch a much more exciting aerial attack. Sure, it's going to be a run-first offense, but in the red zone, Hopkins is great there. Hopkins is great anywhere. Let's be honest. I think this would be a good addition for ATL. So be the GM for me. Should the Falcons sign DeAndre Hopkins? Simple S for sign or P for pass will suffice. I want to know what you guys are thinking in the comment section. Now, before we talk about the next segment on today's show, there are these awesome retro t-shirts on sale too, by the way, over at Fanatics, but you have to use our link. So go to chatsports.com/ATL Retro to get these awesome throwback Atlanta Falcons t-shirts. I put the link in the comments and the description of today's video. Now, speaking of the fine folks over at Bleacher Report, they also named 6 veteran players that teams could take a flyer on, and Trey Flowers was on that list. And if we're talking about free agent edge rushers, you know it's going to be linked to the Atlanta Falcons. Here's what Alex K. from Bleacher Report said. At his best, he is a relentless rusher who has a variety of moves in his arsenal. He's clearly capable of taking down signal callers when he's at 100% and would be an ideal rotational piece for a slew of title contenders. Given Flowers is unlikely to make anything more than the veteran's minimum on a one-year prove-it deal, there's little risk for any team willing to take a chance on his resurgence. So now let's kind of break down whether or not this makes sense for Atlanta. We've talked about edge rusher before on the show. It's clear that the Falcons are going with a edge rusher by committee approach for 2023. So would Flowers be a good addition to this committee? You look at what he's done over the last 4 seasons, they're not great numbers. He was an all-time free agency signing bust, got the bag, and then disappeared in the Motor City. Last year for Miami, he only appeared in 4 games and had 4 tackles, so not glamorous stuff right there. And when you look at Atlanta's defensive line, it's relatively revamped, right? 2 new starters, Calais Campbell and David Onyemata, come over, but you're going to want a rotation because Campbell's 36 years old. If you think Calais Campbell's playing 75% of snaps on the high side, you are in for a rude awakening. So adding Trey Flowers on a veteran minimum and at least see what he does in training camp, right? See if he can get back to that breakout season he had in New England back in 2017, 2018. And if he's out of shape and he doesn't look the NFL part, cut your losses. No guaranteed money. You move on. But if he does look like someone that in a committee can chip in for 4 sacks, 3.5 sacks, you're trying to get out of the cellar of the edge rusher unit, right? And Atlanta finished second to last year with 21 sacks. So if Flowers can chime in with a few, and Lorenzo Carter, Grady Jarrett, Onyemata, and Campbell all chime in with 4 to 6 sacks each, you won't be number 1, you won't be top 5, but you won't be second to last anymore. So if the Falcons make any move, you guys know we will have you covered, which is why you have to subscribe. Make sure you hit the sub button. Turn on your notifications if you're already subscribed. That way when a video goes out, whether it's breaking news or a major rumor, you don't stay in the dark on it and you stay in the loop. Now, Roley is being a bit mean here because he's presenting the score before we even talk about our next draft. I would say the 4th of July draft we did 2 days ago was a pretty big success. It seemed like you guys reacted to it well. So I wanted to do some more drafts during the, let's call it, boring days of the offseason, the month of July. And so for this next draft, we're going to do places to have a beer. So Roley had the 1-1 pick yesterday or 2 days ago, and that definitely helped him secure the win. So for my first overall pick, I'm going with a no-doubter, on a boat.
Ooh.
Never a bad idea to crack open a nice terrapin or something over on Lake Lanier. Give me on a boat with the first overall pick. Roley?
Listen, it's a fair pick, but I don't think it's the best because the best place to have a beer is a bar with the fellas. I mean, there's no better time in the world than having some beers, slugging them down after work on the weekends with the boys, having a good time. There's nothing better than a bar with the fellas.
Yeah, I can't hate that pick. It's a good pick. For my second pick and third overall, I'm going to be a little bit specific here, but an outdoor ballpark, right? Drinking at like Tropicana where the Rays play, that just seems wrong, right? But drinking a nice cold beer outside at Truist or Wrigley or Fenway, Yankee Stadium, that just feels right. So an outdoor ballpark, bag of peanuts, that's going to hit different. So give me outdoor ballpark with a third overall pick.
It's a good pick. I can't lie.
It's a great pick.
So I had to have a good one of my own to come back here, and I go beach. Go back to that song, Toes in the Sand, I forget the rest of the song. But beach
We gotta get
is
you the
always
CMAs.
yeah. Beach is always a good time, just relaxing. You could be with the fellas too, or it could be with a special lady too. Whatever you want to do, beach is a good time.
So I want to diversify my portfolio a little bit here. I got on a boat. We got outdoor ballpark. Give me brewery, right? I know that breweries sometimes can be a bit, I don't know. I like them, but it's sometimes a bit of an odd thing to explain to someone like, let's go pay for a more expensive beer that won't be as good as my favorite beer. I'm not doing a good job of selling brewery right now, but it's a good time. If someone tells you, we're going to go to this new brewery, you're in. You're like, I'll split the Uber. Let's do this thing. So give me brewery with pick number 5.
And then I got the best value pick in the entire draft. On the golf course, a beer on the course. Also, there might be a common theme here is that I like having beers with the fellas, with the guys. Golf course, just nice, relaxing.
You think I'm alone on my boat?
No, I'm just saying. Just saying.
You think I'm some fucking loner? I go to baseball games by myself. I keep score, everything.
On the course with the boys, having some beers. No better place like it. But I do like this next pick for Petey.
Yeah, golf course was great. The value, I can't lie. I love my last pick. It's an all-time way to round up the draft. A Termy, right? An airport beer on a plane. If you're going to a bachelor party, if you're getting out there for the weekend somewhere, it's a great tone setter. Get a beer on the plane, get a little drunk, 30,000 feet up in the air, get some Dierks Bentley going. You're gonna feel good about yourself. Or at the terminal before getting on the plane, starting that fun weekend. It's a great way to kick things off. Get a Termy in you. Plus, you send a picture to all the boys, send in the group chat, and you're like, everyone, send a chug, see a chug.
Yeah, listen, that's a good pick. I mean, golf course and airport / plane, probably the best value in the draft. I closed out with pool. Petey says beach and pool are too similar.
Same bucket.
I don't think so.
Same bucket.
Beach beers
Bad
and pool
portfolio.
beers are much different. I had some pool beers yesterday on the 4th of July, and they were pretty electric, but I would not say they were as electric or would be as fun as if I was on a beach. So I don't know. I think they're different, but give me a pool beer. Nothing like sitting in the pool in the little shallow end, having a beer. Great time.
So let us know who you think won the draft. We're not going to hold very good elections. It's going to look like a third world country's election. So I'm just going to go off the comments. And probably the first time I see Petey, I'll take that as the win. But no, I'm just kidding. Whichever name gets commented more, we will deem them the winner. And let's hopefully even up the series here. So that's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys later.